And we're back for yet another episode of Formula One Philosophy. And it's another preseason predictions episode. As usual, you can find us at Spotify and YouTube this year. Please like and subscribe our videos. You guys have really pumped us up in the last little while, and we really appreciate it. We're not going to list the millions of subscribers we have, but we do have significantly more in this preseason, and we're very grateful. So today, Sean and I are trying something new. Since we are gambling addicts, we're going to do an episode of Over-Under to help with our predictions this year. We could be like all the other podcasts on YouTube for Formula One content. We could give our top 20, like our list of where we think everybody's going to finish. We could give some bold predictions. We could give some wild predictions as they do, like stuff that's highly unlikely, and see if it comes true. Or we can gamble and put millions of dollars on the line today and see if we get it right this year with our over and unders. But before we get into that talk, Sean, how was your week?
The week was okay. Nothing really stood out until yesterday, really. Driving home, I had a tire blowout on the highway.
Oh.
So that was fun. Having to change a tire on the shoulder of a busy highway in the snow.
Oh boy. Wow, that's the first time hearing about this. Are you okay?
Yeah, everything's fine. It's all good. I have to replace the tire, which is annoying.
Is it for the car I'm thinking of? The Nissan?
The Pathfinder?
Yes.
Yes.
I don't know if you want to list and tell everybody your net worth here. That's why I keep everything as personal as possible.
We just said Pathfinder, didn't say what. For all you know, it could be a 95 Pathfinder.
That was a great Pathfinder that your dad used to have. It was what, a 5-speed manual?
5-speed manual, 4-wheel drive. That was a 99. But yeah.
I thought it was 96 for some reason. Anyways, but I love that Pathfinder. It's too bad it probably died like all Renault engines. Or I guess it wouldn't have been Renault at that point in time.
They were partnered with Renault at that point, but that engine is a Nissan engine.
Is it the same one that was in the Patrol, or is it different?
I don't know what was in the Patrol, but the VQs were very much Nissan engines.
Before we move on, I just want to know, are they good engines or bad engines?
They're great.
Oh, okay. They're
technically still running today.
Amazing. You cannot say that about any other Nissan car, especially my favorite, the 300ZX. I guess the engine...
That's very true.
The engine wasn't the problem. The turbo was the problem, though, from what you've told me, or all the above.
Yeah, it's a complex set of problems the 300 had, but yes.
But I'm glad you're okay.
Yeah, it's fine. How about you, Nick? How was your week?
My life is just steamrolling along. I'm excited for Formula One. And I say, without further ado, we get into some of the things we want to talk about today.
Sure, we can do that.
Random predictions for the season. We're just going to elicit some discussion by talking about benchmarks for the year for certain drivers. So I'm going to give an over-under scenario. I'm going to give you points, or how many races someone will drive, or DNFs or crashes. And you will tell me what you think. Do you think over, under, and you can also push. You can also push, which is you think it's going to end up at the number that I give. So I'll give you the line.
So push is equal.
Push is equal. So this will be the starting point. Over, under, 9.5 points for Gabriel Bortoleto this year.
I'm going to say under.
Wow. Comes out swinging right away. Why is that?
That car is a turd. And I'm not even basing it off of lap times or anything we've seen in testing. The car got out there. It did its thing. I don't have any faith in that car. And I don't think the team is putting anything into it. They're going to get out there and they're going to try and get whatever points they can. But at this point, if they come last, they're still getting a decent cross-section of their budget as prize money.
So yeah, they're putting almost nothing into it. What you're saying is they're still getting good money, good sponsorship. You're part of the Formula One community. What's the point in spending a lot of money in a dead year for a team that's not going to go anywhere?
Yeah, and I'm not saying that they're not going to go out there and try. I'm sure they'll bring a few upgrades. They'll do what they can. If there's a situation that presents itself for them to get points, they will capitalize on it if they're able to, sure. But I really don't think this means much for Sauber. And 9.5 points is a lot when you look at their performance the last couple of years.
Yeah, they only got 4 total last year. They could have had more, like we talked about. But your point is that Bortoletto's definitely not going to double their point total from last year himself.
No.
That's fair. And also, like we talked about, McLaren was giving up on this guy. You don't have much faith on him. That's fair. I'm going to go over, though, because I think out of all the 5 rookies, like we just talked about, Liam Lawson is not a rookie. Out of the 5 rookies, he's the only one I actually have faith in to do some type of damage this year, or at least overachieve. And in your predictions, you said Sauber would come last. Fair. I think they're going to come second last. And I think he's going to haul some points. I don't think it's much. Like, I'm thinking 11 points for him. And like I said, in the prediction, Sauber probably gets 20 to 25 points if they're lucky. And sticking with Sauber, I'm going from last to first from last year's standings. So that's why we're starting with Sauber. 9.5 points for Nico Hülkenberg.
I'm going to say over. And I say over because he has enough experience to get points in a shitty car. So in the situations where they can capitalize on something, I think it's going to be him over Bortoletto. But by over, I'm not thinking much. Mm-hmm. Right? I'm thinking like 10, 11 points. Mm-hmm. That's it.
Like I said in our predictions, which are out now, like and subscribe and download. He did this last year. Now, granted, Haas was in a much better position, had better budget and engineering last year. Not engineering, but they had better budget, better ability to do things, better structure. I would say Sauber has better engineers with Binotto himself, but like you said, they're kind of restricted this year. So I think through the upgrades, they'll do a little bit better than Haas did in terms of leaps. Like their leaps will be smaller compared to what Haas did last year, but it'll still be pretty big for them. And in 24 races, I can see him getting 10 points. So I'm also going over.
Okay.
All right, next one. We're on to Williams. Over under 50 points for Carlos Sainz.
That's a good one.
What are you thinking?
I'm trying to think of it in the scope of what is Williams going to do as a team. I think it's under. Not because I have an issue with Sainz, but because I think Williams is potentially in the 50, 60 points total range, maybe 70. And I think that Sainz and Albon are going to be fairly even. So I don't see Sainz getting the majority of those points.
Okay. That's interesting. The next question will be even more interesting. But yeah, I'll give my point. I think he's over. Mostly because I predicted them coming 5th. I think he's going to do most of the point haul. I don't know why that was so hard to say. This year. I'm thinking he gets somewhere close to 100 points himself.
Wow, that's bold.
It is. But that's what this season's all about. It's about swinging for the fences.
100 points is a lot.
Especially for a bad team and for a team that scored 28 and finished 7th in 2023. And last year they scored 14. It's hard to make that jump, but like we talked about, there's going to be a lot of open points available this year.
They scored 17 points last year. 100 points would put them ahead of Aston Martin.
In 5th.
Yes.
Like I said. This is where Sainz belongs, in my opinion. So he's not a Ferrari driver. He never was a Ferrari driver.
He's a better Ferrari driver than Leclerc.
We've talked about it a million times. I agree. However, neither of them should have been there. So this type of team is where he belongs. He needs to be at a team where he can overachieve. I think that's the type of driver he is. One day they may be fighting for podiums and wins. Williams has in the past. One day with him there, maybe. Okay.
All right.
Next one. 27 points for Alex Albon.
I'm going to push that one.
So you're thinking him 27 points, Sainz like 25, 26?
Somewhere between 20 and 30.
Yeah. Do you think this is a better year for Albon? You're guaranteeing it's a better year for Albon than last year.
Yeah. And I think it will be better because now he has somebody competent to pair himself with, to feed off of, and to help develop. Because I guarantee you, Nicholas Latifi, Logan Sargent, they were dragging things the wrong way. And then just all the crashes don't help anything, right? Especially when you get to the end of the season, you simply can't put a car together because you have no parts left. That kind of nonsense has to stop, and I don't see that same level of carnage coming out of this pairing.
Albon was part of that problem.
He was, but again, it was a newer car last year, a different philosophy, and his partner in trying to develop that new car was incompetent. So hopefully they're on it. They've looked good in testing. They haven't shown any sort of concern, let's say. Sainz did have a spin, kind of on his prep for a long run. But he even said they were using a tire that was one step softer than they would normally use at Bahrain, and it was a kind of shitty prep lap. And the tire wasn't there when he went into turn one. So I don't blame him for that. But other than that minor misstep, the cars looked okay. Both of them haven't really seemed to have any issues with it.
I was going to push too, but since you stole my move, I'm going to go under. And I'll do it for this reason. It's not that I think he's not good. Is that I think he does get very nervous very easily. And with Vowles praising Sainz as much as he did even last year, I think he's going to try for things that won't work at times. If he was rattled this much by Colapinto, allegedly, I don't think he was. But if he was nervous at times and crashing and making mistakes with Colapinto, Sainz is a whole other animal. So I can see him struggling where Sainz doesn't.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Sainz and Albon have a very good relationship with each other. I think they respect each other. They've both been on the grid for a while now. And yeah, I don't see that being a level of stress for them, but I get your point.
Both Red Bull Juniors, both probably hate Max. Both probably hate Christian Horner.
Sure.
They can bond there. Over under 0.5 top 5 finishes for Carlos Sainz.
Top 5 finishes?
Top 5. So basically I did 0.5 to say you either no, 0, he's never finishes in the top 5, or he gets 1. Over is 1. Tough one.
It is a tough one. I'm going to say under.
Nice.
I don't think the car is there. That would be a big leap from last year.
No freak fluke finishes, no big DNFs. No, he's just there at the right time. Gasly got a top 5 without rain. Gasly got a top 5 at Qatar.
I know, but the probability of that happening
2 years in a row, yeah, it's very unlikely.
Well, the 2 years in a row thing doesn't bother me as much as just I think there are other people that will be able to capitalize on those events better. Right?
Okay.
I hope this season is such that Williams can get in there, and I hope that they can get in there on merit and not just because it rained in qualifying and half the grid didn't get a lap. But I'm not going to bet on it.
Okay. Yeah, that is their last podium, is that stupid Spa 2021.
Yeah.
Yeah, George Russell does not deserve that monk year as last podium finisher for Williams. Fuck him. I'm going to go over. And actually, I'm thinking close to a podium at one point this season. I'm thinking a fourth. I think something where they shock. Could be like a Monza. Could be a Baku. Canada, they're pretty good at, surprisingly.
Mm-hmm. Hungaroring.
Yes. Something like that.
Okay.
We'll see. All right. On to our Racing Bulls now. This is now what, their third name? Their fourth or fifth name in 5 years? Like, just stick to one name.
I'm okay with them keeping this one.
RB is good.
They've leaned into the fact that they are a Red Bull team. They now have the Red Bull on the nose. They have mix of the top team's livery, but nicer, in my opinion. Let's just stick with the Racing Bulls. Mm-hmm. Okay? No more clothing brand nonsense or none of that shit. Trying to hide Red Bull under an Italian version of itself.
Unless they go back to like the Sauber Benetton colors they did last year at Vegas. Cool with that.
Sure, you're talking about like the pinks and the pastel type.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't like it, but
fine. Whatever.
Fuck you.
Over under 2.5 points finishes for Isaac Hadjar. 2.5 is the line. So if you say over, you think he'll finish in the points 3 times.
And this is a tricky one because does he get 3 points or does he get 50 points? If you're talking about 3 points finishes, it's a big spread.
Points finishes.
Yes.
So not points.
No, I understand. What I'm saying is it possible for him to get 3 10th place finishes? Absolutely. Is it possible that he gets 3 points finishes of like 8th, 6th, 7th, where he's going to get more points? I know this isn't the point of your over-under. It's just that's what goes through my head is how many points do I think this guy can get? Because if I say he can get 4 points, that's either 4 10th place finishes or what, a 7th?
8th.
8th. So, I don't know. It's hard for me to say. I'm going to say under.
Can I just, before you lock that in, say one thing? You did put Racing Bulls. You put them 4th in our constructors' predictions.
That's a good point. But I really have no faith in Hadjar.
So you're thinking Yuki pulls out 200 points out of his ass this year. I kind of like where you're going.
That's a lot of points.
That's a lot of points. Listen, there's no wrong answers here.
There are plenty of wrong answers, Nick.
It's tough because you're right. There's not much faith.
I guess I've pinned myself into saying over then, haven't I?
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, I'm sorry. But so I'll have to finish your point, but that you can't say. Yeah, there's no faith in him. I'm going under. What is he going to, like, if the car doesn't come out amazing, what can he do? And even if it does come out amazing, he'll find a way to fuck it up like he did in F2.
Yeah.
And complain to everybody else.
And I saw something yesterday that bothered me. He had just finished a prep lap, and I think he was trying to launch into either a qualifying sim or like a proper race run. And he got a little squirrely coming out of turn 1 and just hands off the wheel, kind of like pissed off at himself, I'm sure. But it's like, dude, you're in the middle of trying to test the fucking car. Head down, get to it. That kind of thing. We saw that all through F2. We saw that all through his P1 appearances in F1, that he gets extremely frustrated at the slightest inconvenience. This is not the racing series for him.
No, like you saw whenever the pressure was on in F2. Just keep it together, keep your head in it. No. Yeah, I didn't know about that yet. Like, why would you ever put your hands off the wheel in a racing sim or a qualifying sim?
Well, it was clear he backed out of it. It's not like he tried to save it and then, got animated. He backed right out of it. But like, okay, you're gonna fuck up. You're gonna get a bit of a snap oversteer every once in a while. Can you keep it in it and hit your target after making a mistake? All he's done at that point is give up. He made a mistake, he gave up.
And what we saw with RB last year was it can be temperamental some races, even for experienced people like Danny or Yuki. So yeah, I think we both agree there. I'm sorry you had to go over there, but yeah. Okay, so then I think this one's easy for you then.
But I'm still saying he only gets 3 points.
3 10th places.
There it is.
Yuki Tsunoda is going to get 250 points himself.
In the first 5 races.
Somehow. So then over under 25.5 points for Yuki Tsunoda.
I guess that's got to be an easy one. That's over.
He got close to that last year. I think he got just over. I think it was 20 something odd points. No, it was probably more because he carried that team. It was probably 30 points. At least 33 or something like that.
6, 7, 14, 15, 19, 20, 22, 28, 30.
30 points. Okay. So yeah, I'm still going under because of my predictions. As much as I like Yuki, my prediction is V-Carb finishes bottom. So that's an easy under for me.
Stop calling him V-Carb. That name is dead.
Racing Bulls, Toro Rosso, Alpha Tauri. Okay. Here's for some spicy conversation. We're on to Haas. Over under 15.5 points for Oliver Bierman. And I put a note here. Kevin Magnussen last year got 16. So keep that in mind.
I don't know why you think this is spicy. This one's easy. It's under.
It's spicy for our listeners who probably have been hearing for the past 2 years that Oliver Bierman is the best thing since sliced bread. And they probably think over, and they probably think he's going to be one of the best drivers. P1's Matt and Tommy said, we're not talking about him enough.
Interesting.
Very interesting.
You know what I heard in testing?
Yes?
You're right. We have heard Behrman is great all of last year, since Saudi Arabia. We've also heard Kimi Antonelli is the next Max Verstappen. Okay. In testing, it was Kimi Antonelli is the next Max Verstappen. Gabriel Bortoleto is the next Max Verstappen. Generational talent.
Wow. Above Bortoleto. Okay.
Okay. I don't know what generation. Sure. Who's the other one? Hajar. Very fast. Has the pace. Has what it takes.
Quick, I would imagine they said.
No, specifically did not say quick. Has the pace.
Has the pace, okay.
Okay. And who's the one that I'm missing? Duan. Comes from a racing pedigree. Has what it takes to put up with the pressure put on him. Okay. So I get it. You're trying to hype up the rookies. But if we believe what they've said last year for Behrman, Kimi hasn't changed. And Bortoleto is now apparently a generational talent. You've got 3 of the next Max Verstappens. This is going to be a really fun series to watch in about 3 to 4 years, if that's the case. I highly doubt that it is. But we'll see. Behrman, like we said in the last episode, seems to be a dog who's caught his tail. He doesn't know what the fuck to do with it.
No.
Kimi, I think Toto had a firm grip around his balls in testing because nothing happened. Set some decent times that went to the top of the charts, but it's testing. I think they're still like 4 seconds off of where they were last year.
Can I make a point? In 2023, you want to know who topped the charts on day one?
Who?
Zhou Guanyu.
There you go. Yeah, and that's just it. This is testing. No one's really doing glory runs. So you can't base it off of that. And every time someone went to the top of the charts, they made a big fuss about it, but then also turned around and said, but we don't know anything about it. Yeah. So why bother talking about it? At some point, almost everybody was at the top of the charts, except Behrman, Ocon, Gasly, Duan.
Hulkenberg, I imagine, too. And was Bortoleto ever top of the charge?
I want to say they were very briefly. But it was very clear that Haas and Alpine just went out there to run their programs. They weren't doing glory runs. They weren't even bothered about trying to do fast anything. They had a very strict set of routines that they were running through, and it was clear what they were doing. And they just did that because that's what's going to help them through the year. Understanding where the car is now will help them develop that car to be fast later. And that's what testing's about. Don't bother trying to look at it and say, oh, Antonelli's the next Verstappen, Bortoletto's a generational talent. I didn't see anything in the fucking testing that showed he was anywhere near as good as half the people on the grid. In fact, I think they only covered him for like a lap. Anyway.
You've been like I'm letting you vent here because you watched David Croft and Ted Kravitz for 3 days and you're losing your mind. Imagine for an entire season.
Yeah.
We're both going under there. For all the reasons you just said. Also, I've outlined it a million times on Behrman. I think he's worse than Magnussen. I think he's worse than Mazepin. But anyways, I got one for you. Over under 49.5 points for Esteban Ocon.
Again, it's under. Easy.
Yeah, you've outlined it a million times. He's unreliable. He's teammate killer.
Yeah, he's absolutely useless. I'm giving it half the season before he pulls what he's pulled with all of his teammates and tries to run them into a wall. Simply because he does not have what it takes to make a proper move when he has the equipment to do it. So he feels he has to bump them off because they're the only person he's competing with.
That's very fair. The only person he never did that with was Ricardo. I think he knew who the big dog was. He doesn't know. I think you're absolutely right. He doesn't think anything of Behrman. If he's losing to him, why not run him off the road?
I mean, that's a few years ago, and my memory's not as sharp as it used to be. But I also don't recall them running side by side as frequently as he has with other teammates.
Yeah, Ricardo was way ahead of him most races. And if Ocon was ahead of Ricardo, I think Ricardo was either out or had problems.
Right. And Ricardo's days at Renault were difficult, but he did have some good performances.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we haven't seen that from Ocon. And anytime we have seen it from him, his teammate has kind of been there with him.
Alonso at Hungary, Gasly last year at Brazil. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
So,
yeah, I'm going over because of my predictions on Haas. I think Ocon will pull the majority of the points and he'll embarrass Behrman. It's not a positive for Ocon, and I'm very intrigued to see about what you just said. When the honeymoon ends at Haas with him, what's the day it does? I'm very intrigued to see. Is it early? Is it later in the season? He only has a 2-year contract. If it happens, say, in Austin, that could be very catastrophic for his future.
mm-hmm.
Very good point. All right, so then I think this probably is easy for you too. Over under 0.5 podiums for Haas this year.
Under. Not said.
Not going to be Behrman, not going to be Ocon.
Nope.
I'm going to go over. Just for fun. I think he gets one early, Ocon, and then fucks off. He does what he needs to do there. He's the only podium finisher at Haas thus far, and then starts fucking up.
So we're assuming this is a race where 3 people finish.
Something like that.
Okay.
I'm thinking a Bahrain, something like that. Like a Bahrain, where was Haas good last year? A Mexico. Something where it's out of nowhere, but he did nothing else. Just I'm thinking he just chips away at 7th, 8th this year, like Hulkenberg. Once again, this is not a praise of Esteban Ocon. I just think he's slightly better than Hulkenberg, and I think he'll do something like that. That's my thought process. Just once. One podium.
Yeah. No.
Okay, moving on from that fuckface to another fuckface. 2 fuckfaces, actually.
It's a little harsh.
Alpine. Over under 5 races for Jack Doohan.
I think it's going to be over. And we talked about it in the last episodes that the claim is he has a 5-race contract and that it somewhat makes sense logistically to ship all the stuff out to the first 5 races and then be in a place that if you need to replace him, you have a little bit of time to get it sorted before you have to ship those components out, as far as things that are specific to Doohan. I think, how do I say this? I don't have a lot of faith in him based on what I've seen, but I think the team is going to want to save face and not just ditch him after 5 races because somebody heard that he has a 5-race contract, right? I think the team's going to bow to a little bit of pressure to not do that. So I don't necessarily have a lot of faith that he'll see out the season, but I think he's going to get more than 5 races.
That's a good point, to not look like total fools, hypocrites, and morons.
Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't answered that one. This is the only one I haven't answered pre-recording. You make a really good point. So just to be devil's advocate, I'll go under, but I think you're absolutely right. It'll be 10 races. But I'll say under, just for fun. Briatore is a little bit overrated, I think, as a team principal. And Luca Di Maio, they interviewed him recently. Essentially, he said, let's all be honest with each other. Flavio Briatore runs this team. I don't think he picks good drivers. I think he picked one good driver in his entire career, which was Michael. But I don't think he sees a good driver when he's there. And so even if Doohan does well, I think the writing's on the wall that he doesn't want him there.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I want to say it's Jordan that has said this before, that he has a lot of praise for Briatore, who is not a motorsports person. Mm-hmm. Came into motorsports because of a fluke, effectively. He was running operations at Benetton, the clothing company, and the owner of Benetton wanted to get involved in F1 and paid a shit ton of money to basically own that team. And Flavio is a great businessman, and everybody who knows him will apparently tell you that he is that. And he did great for Benetton, won championships for them. Not because he knows F1 or is an engineer or anything, but knows how to put the business in a place where it can succeed. And I think that gives him an advantage, sure. He's not the only team principal that has come from a similar background. But I think he's been out of the sport so long that it's changed away from what it was when he was doing his thing, that I don't know that bringing him back will help it. Right? It is so significantly different than when he was in it that bringing him back just makes him look like a dinosaur.
You can't change drivers every 5 seconds when reliability is 20,000% better than it was when, like you said, when he was winning. It makes no sense.
Yeah, and simply the cost of doing that these days is significantly more. Like back when he was doing it, drivers would pay you to get a seat. And yeah, okay, that still happens today, but the salaries that we're talking about are not the same. And there's so many good drivers coming through that you can't afford to just take whoever and hope that they're good, or pay them pennies and hope that it pans out for you. You have to have some sort of confidence in who you're taking, because ultimately, if there is that inconsistency and you're not getting development input from that driver, from 2 reliable drivers, you're not going to get to where you need to be. All right, having one driver in Pierre Gasly, who they may or may not have faith in to develop, isn't going to be enough. They need another driver there, another set of eyes and, butt cheeks in the seat to give that feedback in order to put that car where it needs to be. So I think Briatore, if he's taking similar approaches to what he was previously, it's not going to be helpful.
No. And can I just push back on one thing?
Go for it.
Michael and Ross won with Benetton. And we've talked about 2005, 2006 a million times, so I won't rehash it here. Because look at 96 Benetton, when it was no Michael, no Ross, and Flavio Briatore.
I'm not arguing with you.
Yeah.
But who put them there?
Yeah, okay. So he's got a business sense. He's got an advertising sense, I think Jordan talked about. Mm-hmm. He understands how to promote.
He knows how to bring people in. He knows how to sell. Because if you were perceivably the next best thing and the worst team on the grid comes to you and wants you, why would you go? Right? You have to have a good salesman to make that pitch. Right? So he's got the knack for that. Similar to Niki Lauda and Hamilton bringing him to Mercedes. Right? You have to be able to sell. And that's something I can't do.
Neither can I.
Definitely not a salesperson. And I appreciate that there are people out there that can, because, if I were in the situation where, we're at the bottom of the ladder, but I have faith in what we can do technically, I can't go out there and convince somebody to do it. I can't convince a top-level driver to go and put their career on the line to come for my dream, let's say. So I would need somebody who can go out there and do that for me. Right? So I can understand and appreciate why Briatore has the reputation that he does. I just don't know that his particular brand is going to work these days.
Good point. Well made. All right. Quick one more for Alpine, and then we'll move on. Over under $5,000 worth of damage for Alpine this year. Didn't they get like nothing last year or something like that, or 2,500, something very small?
No, they had a fairly large damage bill. It just none of it went to Gasly. So I didn't even include that in my list here because that's a ridiculous number.
Okay, moving on.
You fart in that car and it's more than $5,000 worth of damage.
Especially when I fart.
Yeah.
All right. Next one then. On to Aston Martin. Because Gasly, I don't know. Is there really a pertinent over-under for him? He can go anywhere, so. Yeah. On to Aston Martin. Over-under. 4.5 points finishes for Stroll. Similar to Isaac Hadjar's question. And just to keep in mind for your decision, Lance Stroll didn't finish in the points the last 10 races last year.
Jesus Christ.
Canada's most accomplished driver, I think. I think he needs 8 races, and he has the most races as a Canadian.
No, I think he's there.
Oh, he's already there? Oh, my God.
I think so. Or if not, it is 8 races. So most accomplished as far as most Grand Prix driven.
Yes.
But Jacques Villeneuve.
And Gilles Villeneuve. Yeah, I guess Jacques is better because he won a championship.
So I have Aston in 7th.
Mm-hmm.
So 4.5 points finishes. Again, that could be 5 points or that could be more. So,
in the points 4.5 times for Lance Stroll this year, in a year that I think is unanimously agreed they're throwing away. That's why this is tough.
I don't know that they're throwing it away.
I'm not arguing that.
We talked about it last time, and I think that's been hashed out. I'm going to put over, simply because, sure, he hasn't been in the points for the last 10 races, but that means he was in the points before then. Maybe not consistently, but he was. So 4.5 points finishes in a car that should be there. It is an entirely brand new car. Doesn't mean a whole lot, but we'll see.
It's not Newey's car. It's him and Alonso's car. His and Alonso's car from last year. Do you have any faith in that development?
No. But I think they're going to get more than 5 points.
Points finishes. So you think he'll get 5 10th places?
The bar is low.
Okay. I didn't answer that one either because that's a tough one. I'm going to go over as well. I just don't think he can fuck it up that badly. I said last year he'd improve, and I was wrong, so I probably shouldn't bet on him, but we'll try something different. Over under 1.5 top 5 finishes for Fernando Alonso. I got to look this one up. I think I think he got one last year. One, maybe two. So that's a tough one.
I'm going to go under.
You think they're just a lot of like small ball this year for them?
Again, I don't think they're throwing away the season, but I don't know that they're going to do very well.
He did get one. He got one in the second race of the season. He got fifth.
Right, and that's just it. Like, they might come out of the gates when everybody is still, okay, yeah, we went this direction, it didn't quite work. I think Aston Martin has shown they can come out of the gates pretty hot, while everybody else is still, perhaps went a little conservative. So I think he gets one. I don't know that he gets two.
That's a good point. I'm going under as well. I'm going 0. I bet heavily on them not doing much this year. If anyone could, randomly, it's him. He used to get like top 6s in the McLaren Honda. But I don't have much faith in him this year, especially as he gets another year older.
43 this year.
I think by the end of it, he's 44.
Yeah.
This one was specifically requested by you. Over under 0.5 do not starts for Lance Stroll.
I'm going to say over.
Because he's Lance Stroll?
Because he's Lance Stroll.
Enough said.
So I think, am I wrong in thinking that he had 2 last year?
Brazil and something else.
I think Singapore was the year before.
Yeah.
Singapore was 23.
All he needs is one. So, yeah, it's one a year so far.
At least, yes.
Let's see. I'm looking it up right now. Lance Stroll had one, do not start. So, yeah, easy over for you. I'll go under. I think he's too embarrassed to do something like that again.
I don't know that he possesses the capability to be embarrassed. Because would he not have just quit out of embarrassment?
That's not a bad point, John. Not a bad point at all. And before we delve into that anymore and I prove myself wrong, we'll just move on. On to Mercedes. Here's a hot one for you. Over under 90 points for Kimi Antonelli this year. And I just want to keep in mind, Oscar Piastri in his rookie season got 91.
90 points is a lot of points. But that Mercedes looked reasonable in testing. It looked kind of nailed down. And it hasn't looked like that in a couple of years.
It's your call.
Where do I have them in my predictions?
You actually have them underachieving this year in 5th.
But 5th puts us where?
100 some odd points. Because Austin got 92 last year.
Yeah.
They could get, because Austin got 270 points in 2023 and finished 5th. So keep that in mind.
Last year they had 400 points.
Almost 500, it looks like. 498, right?
Yeah,
468.
something like that. 468.
Yeah.
I'm going to say over. I think that car is decent. I think he gets over 90 points.
To your point, Piastri had a back marker for 10 races. Antonelli probably doesn't have a back marker.
Right. Exactly. The McLaren that Piastri had was terrible. So if we go back and look at where was Piastri in 2029, where'd you go?
You were in the future in 2029?
Oh, shut up.
You would have said the exact same fucking thing to me. It's a you comment I made.
Yeah, exactly. But it's being made to me, so fuck you.
Yeah, it was 90 some odd points.
90 some odd points, and most of it was coming late from Britain onwards, basically.
97, actually. So he got 97 points. Couple of podiums, a sprint race win.
Yeah. And that's another thing, I guess, kind of complicates this. We have to take sprint races into account as well. I'm going to say it's still over. Yeah.
I haven't. Yeah, that's another one I haven't written down because I don't know either. I don't think he's a bust, but I think this year is definitely a little bit of trouble for him. And I'm thinking 85 points, so I'm going to go under. I don't think fourth is what it was last year. They'll still get fourth.
Okay.
It's still a hard car to drive. It's still some pressure on him. There's still going to be days where he just crashes out.
Why do you claim that it's a hard car to drive?
Because if Hamilton and Russell hated it last year, no matter how much they improved it this year, which they probably didn't improve it that much, looking at 2026, it's going to be exponentially tougher for a rookie.
Yeah, but that's where I think you're wrong. So they learned last year where it went wrong, right? They had that aha moment, but at that point it was too late to build it out of the car. So now that they know where it went wrong, they've had the opportunity to not only take the developments that worked from last year, but to also go back and look at what they couldn't change because it was too late and make those changes. And like I said, the car looks good. And Antonelli did put in some good times compared to the rest of the field without hitting the wall.
Okay.
So you're entitled to your opinion, but you're wrong.
They've missed the mark the last 3 seasons coming out of the gate. I'm banking they do it one more year before 2026. Especially with a young driver trying to figure out Formula One for the first time. No matter how many tests he does, it's still going to be tough.
I don't disagree.
All right, next one. 240.5 points for George Russell.
It's going to be over.
Ooh.
As much as I don't like him and don't think he is worth what the hype is, I have them in 5th place, and 5th means that they're going to get a decent amount of points. And like we talked about in the last episode, I think the field is going to be much closer. The overall amount of points per team is going to be less simply because that's going to be more distributed through the field.
So McLaren got 666 points last year. You're thinking they win again with like 550?
Potentially. And 5th place, where I have Mercedes, is technically less than 100 points from last year's standings. I think it's potentially more than that this year.
Interesting. Okay.
Again, I haven't done the math to see what that would actually look like, but I'm sure it can work out.
I'm going under. My theory is that the top 3 run away with it, and 4th gets closer to 5th because of Antonelli. And I don't have much faith in Russell.
So you're thinking that Mercedes has a total maximum amount of points of 329 this year?
I'm thinking 85 I said for Antonelli, and then
I took 89 because you said under 90.
So 89. So yeah. That's reasonable.
All right.
Just wait till you get to my Red Bull predictions. All right, and one more for Mercedes. Over under 3.5 crashes for Kimi Antonelli this year.
His fault or not his fault? Or either or?
Oh, yeah, I didn't say solo crashes.
Because, I mean, you put him next to Ocon, and that's not ending well.
So 3.5 crashes that are his fault this year.
I'm going over.
It didn't really matter.
It is a good car that's going to breed some confidence in him. But the second there's any inconsistency in it, it's going to bite him.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I'm also going over.
All right.
He's a rookie. He's bound to make mistakes. Crashes are okay now that he crashes. Remember, we heard in Monza, crashes are completely fine now for rookies. So I think he'll have a few of them. If anything, the more crashes he has this year, the more faith I'll have in him next year.
Okay.
On to Red Bull.
Sorry, can we break here for a second?
Sure. All right. Cut this part out. All right. The next one. Over under 9.5 wins for Max Verstappen.
That's a hard one.
Mm-hmm.
What did he have last year? 7?
9.
He had 9 last year. We went from a season where he had 21 of 22.
Red Bull had 21 of 22. He had 19.
Okay, fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
Still, the point stands. 19 of 22 to 9 of 24.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say under. The car didn't look great. He handled it well. in testing, but the car didn't look great, and they also didn't do a ton of running.
Which is never a good sign.
They didn't seem to have problems. They weren't fighting anything, it didn't look like, but they weren't running. So I don't know what that is, other than either being cocky or not realizing that they needed more data.
I don't know. He said he liked every moment of it. He said that the car was operating and doing everything he wanted it to.
Which doesn't bode well for Lawson.
That's a good point. I am listening intently to what you just said, but I'm going way over. And I'm thinking 13 this year. Every time Red Bull struggles in a season during a period before a regulations change, they dominate that last season. We saw it in 2013. And then 2021, they did a really good season right before a regulations change. They did pretty good. I'm thinking 13.
But not ballsy enough to say 24.
No. I don't see how that happens.
What happened to swinging for the fences, Nick?
24 is a lot.
They're going to win 26.
Out of 24? That's a Gatsby prediction right there. All right, next one. Here's a spicy one, and I changed the line on this one because of something you said last week, which was brilliant, that Liam Lawson's not a rookie. He's been here for 3 seasons. He needs to be treated like Sergio Perez.
But Nick, he hasn't finished the season.
Shut up, David Croft. Shut the fuck. Okay. Over under 151.5 points for Liam Lawson. Sergio Perez got 152.
I'm going to say it's over. Because I feel like I've given Lawson a whole lot of shit. And I don't think he's a bad driver. He does have talent and he has a lot of skill, and we've seen that through the junior categories and in Super Formula. There is something there. He is not on par with Max Verstappen. So I'm going to say he does better than Sergio, and then we'll have to put up with all the idiots saying it was all justified and, Sergio didn't deserve to be there, all that nonsense, and they made the right choice over Yuki. Whatever. We're going to have to put up with that. I think he gets over 151 points. But I don't know that he's on par with Max.
He's not even close. And like you just said, if the car is working for Max, it's not going to work for Liam. And he still is a young driver. There was not enough respect put on Sergio Perez's name through this entire time. Yeah, he sucked compared to Max, but that car was geared for Max. Mm-hmm. He won 5 races at Red Bull in his time. Countless podiums. Second place. Held on barely in 2023. Yeah, he had a shitty 2024. Sometimes the car, when it's not working for you, it sucks. And he was getting older. It was time to part ways with him. But I don't think Liam's anywhere near, especially based on his junior. Like at the times at Alpha V-Carb, soon to be RB.
He was there for AlphaTauri.
That's you're right. So he was there for AlphaTauri, and he's definitely not a rookie then. He's been through how many changes of that team? It wasn't impressive enough to justify that he'll do better than Sergio. I think he goes under. It's not his fault. And like I said in the predictions episode, there's some desire from Horner to see Lawson fail, because then it fucks Marco over. Much like Nick DeVries, much like I think will happen with Isaac Hadjar.
I understand what you're saying. I don't see what the intent of screwing Marco over does. The man is well into his 80s. He's not going to be around much longer. I don't think he's going to drop dead, but just how long do you want to do this?
As long as Marco's willing to do it. Marco, less than 12 months ago, and through Jos Verstappen, put out a whole thing that Christian Horner's destroying this team. And Horner's power hungry. He'll just crush him just for fun. Crazy power hungry people do shit like this. At least it's my opinion.
And you're not wrong on that. That one I'll give you.
You don't see a point to it because you are a normal, well-balanced person.
I don't know about that, but
Well, think like Christian Horner.
I'd rather not.
Yeah, I don't want them. I don't want the brain cells that help me choose the ginger spice? Why not choose the... Anyways.
That's not where I would have gone with that one, but okay.
I know.
I was thinking something more along the lines of I don't want to think like Christian Horner because then I'd end up with a dick pic on Instagram.
Yeah, nobody wants to see that.
Maybe they do.
Maybe you'll never know until you try, Sean.
That's the spirit, Nick.
Moving on. Over under 600 points for Red Bull this year in the constructors.
600's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like based on my previous predictions, I have to say it's under.
It's fair. I am going to push.
Okay.
I think they can do it. I think they can probably even go over. I think Max is probably going to get 550 some odd by himself. I'm very bullish on Max this year.
Okay. So you have zero faith in Lawson.
I didn't say that. You did.
You're claiming he's going to get 50 or less points in 24 races in what is potentially one of the better cars on the grid.
Mm-hmm. 600 points for Red Bull could mean that I'm mixing up Max's, and maybe Max he got 437 last year. Maybe this year he gets 470 and Liam gets 130. Anyways. So yeah, I could be wrong about the 550 with Max, but I could be right about Liam.
Yeah, I mean, I just calculated it. So 600 points, if he were to get 26 points per race, he would need to win. He would need to get 26 points per race for 23 races to get 600 points.
Yeah, it's tough.
He needs to win plus fastest lap 23 times. Mm-hmm. Plus a sprint race or some points in the sprint race in there.
It's tough. That's just Max, though. That's just one.
Just Max.
He almost got he got close to that in 2023. That's not happening this year.
Well, that's kind of my point. Like, we just talked about them not coming close to winning 24 races, but based on that, Red Bull has to win 24 races.
No, like I said, if Max got 437 last year, he can get 470 this year. Liam can get 130.
Yeah, sure. We're mixing this up a little bit, but the line item here is 600 points for Red Bull. So for Red Bull or Max, for anybody to get 600 points, they have to win 23 races.
Or get 26 points combined a race.
Fair.
Yeah.
Fair.
All right. Next one, Ferrari. Over under 1.5 wins for Lewis Hamilton.
I'm going to say over. The car looked good. And I think I've mentioned this to you. I'm not a Lewis Hamilton fanboy. I think he deserves the praise that he gets. I think he deserves the 7 championships that he has. He is a very talented, generational talent. The Ferrari looked good. I don't think him being at Ferrari is anything special other than the fact that he wanted to be there, so he went. I don't buy into the hype of Lewis Hamilton at Ferrari is what we've all wanted. I don't give a shit. I did mention to you, though, that red car with his yellow helmet looks phenomenal. That's as far as I'll go as far as the emotional part of it goes. That image was very nice. But I think there's something there. I think they've learned from last year. Obviously, last year they had a really nice car. I think they're on their way to something. Now, this is not the Ferrari hopium nonsense.
Ferrari fan here.
This is not their year. But Lewis will win more than 2 races.
I agree. And Alonso and Vettel started off pretty strong in their first year. The lull is something neither of them can get over.
Right.
And I don't think Lewis will either. But he will probably win a couple races before that lull.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I still haven't seen that picture. Once we're done recording, we need to see a picture of him with yellow and red. But yeah, is it like a mustard yellow? Because that always goes pretty well.
No, it's almost like his earlier helmets, his McLaren day helmets.
Those were nice. Yeah, almost like Senna-ish. Senna yellow. Yeah, that would go good. He's happy. He's comfortable. I think he can win. Now, can he win a championship? That's a whole other question. And we will see.
Yeah, exactly. We will see.
That is nice. Yeah,
We're
good
looking
job,
at the
Lewis.
picture here.
Yeah, copy, Lewis. Next one. Over under 2.5 wins for Charles Leclerc.
Sorry, you said over on Lewis, right?
I said over. Yes.
Okay.
And now over under 2.5 wins for Charles Leclerc. This is an interesting one. He won 3 last year. Tough.
It is tough, but I think it's going to be over. I think he can pull 3 out. I think Lewis can pull 3 out. There's 6. Like I said, I think this year is going to be a lot more competitive than we have seen, simply because we didn't have huge offsets last year. So we're not coming into this year with huge offsets. There's been no revolutionary design changes. So I think the field is converged enough that we're going to see, you probably know the number. How many winners did we have last year?
We had 7.
7 different winners, and a good cross section of those 7 had more than 1 win.
All of them had more than 1.
There you go.
Yeah.
So I think this year, having a cross section of 6-7 drivers with 2-3 wins, 4 wins, is achievable.
That's a good point. I, however, think Max is going to take the lion's share, as I've said. So I'm going well under for Charles.
Well under? How do you get well under 3?
I think he gets 0.
Wow.
The leader of Ferrari, we've seen this since Raikkonen in 2008. The leader of Ferrari always struggles with the young and up-and-comer. And I know Lewis is not a young up-and-comer.
It's like twice Charles's age.
Whenever they replace the last guy, without saying that he's done, they just let it all unfold.
Mm-hmm.
When Sebastian replaced Kimi didn't win for 4 years. When Charles replaced Vettel, he won once in 2 years. That's what I'm thinking is happening here. Leclerc's not going to see it coming. He's going to wonder what the fuck this year was.
All right. I think that's a bold prediction.
Next one. Over under 2.5 point less races for Ferrari.
And that is less than, or sorry, by point less, you mean races where they do not achieve any points
Yes.
whatsoever. It is Ferrari. That's going to happen. I'm going over. At least one of these races, the Ferrari in the back of Lewis's car is going to go bang. And Charles is going to somehow, for some reason, be in 12th place.
Like he was 3 out of 4 races last year in the summer, from Canada till, I think, Austria.
Right. And then I think that's probably going to repeat itself a couple of times. You know, the Ferrari engines don't seem to like Austria, Baku, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's entirely possible that they do continue to go bang. And yeah, I think 3 races with no points. Yeah, it could happen.
Completely agree. It's over. It's the lull. I don't know when it'll happen, but Lewis will have to navigate through it. They all have. He's not special. All right. McLaren. Over, under. 3.5 wins for Lando.
I think it happens. I think he can squeeze out 4 wins.
He did last year.
Yeah. And I think now that he's shown that he can win, that's it. Like we talked about last year. Once he got out of his own way, he was able to do it. His mentality and his mindset going into this year seems to be better than it was last year. He seems to be okay with the car. He has commented that the rear is a little happier than he would like it to be. But it also didn't seem to bother him. Right? So it's one of these things where he's trying to find fault in the car, per se, But even what he's complaining about doesn't seem to be that big of an issue.
Is Lando. If someone can find a complaint throughout the season, it's him. You're right. He has matured. He has gotten better. He's learned how to win. I completely agree with all that. I'm going under. For the simple fact that I just don't think he'll see what Max is going to do coming. I think this year will surprise him.
Okay.
Now, I'm not saying he doesn't win in 2026, but I think often the path to success has twists and turns and surprises that a lot of people don't see coming. He's pretty confident this year. I think he gets a smackdown.
Okay.
But we'll see. Here's a good one. Over under 3.5 wins for Oscar Piastri. Oh, yeah, you like that one.
This is a hard one because I want to say over, but then as I look up this list, if I add up all the overs on the win column, we're into like 2 seasons worth of wins. So I'm going to get something wrong. This one you really can't push because you can't have half a win.
Sprint win. So if he wins 3 Grand Prix and 1 sprint, I'll give it to you if you want to push.
I'm going to do that.
All right.
Just to be different, but I'm also going to make the note that it has to be a sprint win.
Okay. That's a good point. So you think he improves this year because he got 2 last year. 2 wins in a sprint last year, yeah.
I think he definitely improves this year. So I just want to be clear that it has to be at least 3 GP wins, or in this case, the push, 3 GP wins plus a sprint.
Yes.
None of this nonsense of half points, whatever. It's 3 wins and a sprint. That's what we're going for here.
Yeah, so then if his 4th win is a rained out race win, which with half points, it doesn't count.
Either way, I wouldn't win it because it would be over the 3.5.
Okay.
Right? It wouldn't be the push. So for the push to work, it has to be 3 plus a sprint.
Okay. That works. I want to do the same, but I'm going to go under again. And I remember I picked McLaren to win the championship.
So well, okay. You're claiming they're going to win the championship with a maximum of 3 wins.
6.
6 wins, sorry. 3 each.
And I think actually that's exactly, they won it last year with a maximum of 6. So I think that's going to happen again. But Lando gets 1 less, Oscar gets 1 more. That's my thinking.
Interesting. But they're consistently going to be up there. That's the implication.
Yes. I think that's safe to say. I don't think they have a lull at the beginning of the season.
Yep. Okay.
This one can be our last one, or we can do the last one that I have written down there. But over under 2.5 team orders for McLaren this year.
So this is, well, let's try and be more specific. 2.5 team orders. Are we talking a Hungary situation where
Yes.
Lando himself got something like 65 sets of team orders? Or is it simply a race in which team orders are given?
A race in which team orders are given, not the therapy session between Lando and his engineer. Think about the board meeting, Lando. Think about what's going to happen to you.
But you're also not specific on who benefits.
I'm not. That's very astute of you. Because there was an Oscar beneficiary in Brazil in the sprint race.
I'm going to say under.
Wow.
And I'm going to say under because I think the season is starting with a good car. A good car that both of them seem to have a handle on. That will start strong. And from that point, it's not a matter of Oscar trying to catch up to Lando. It's both of them on equal footing. And let them race until one of them comes out on top.
So you're thinking it might even be Mercedes 2016 type of situation.
Yes.
Wow.
And for those listeners that are relatively new, Nick, because I continually forget how long ago 2016 was.
It's almost 10 years.
Exactly. Refresh us on 2016.
Rosberg versus Hamilton. They let them run loose or run wild. They essentially let them compete against each other because the car was so far ahead of everybody else. that they were the title fight. Teammates were the title fight until the last race.
Right. And that's the season where we got Max's first win in Spain because Nico and Hamilton ended up in the gravel trap first lap.
Mm-hmm.
That is also the season where we got a bizarre finish to Austria because Hamilton ran over Nico because Nico decided he was not going to turn. What else happened?
There was more DNFs, I think. I think that the Austria and Spain is all I can think of. Because if you listen to Lewis in Drive to Survive, he talks about how Total reamed them out after Spain.
Yeah, no, that was a big one. Austria was another one. I think they both finished Austria, but it was definitely a clusterfuck that didn't need to happen.
Rosberg finished without a wing in second, yes.
Yeah. So that's a good point. It is potential that McLaren could somewhat self-destruct over who is the top driver. So I don't know that they'll get as many team orders as they did last year, simply because there won't be a clear number one until late in the season.
Question for you. If Oscar wins 3 of the first 4 races, does Lando pull over for him?
If Piastri wins 3 of the first 4 races, this blows my theory out of the water because then I think the team orders come in. And Lando won't like it, and he may ignore the team orders, but I think eventually, yes, he does.
That's where I'll disagree with you. I've agreed with everything you've said up to this point, except for that. I think if Oscar wins 3 of the first 4 races, Lando comes out swinging and does not follow the orders.
Sure. Who's McLaren's reserve driver?
Pato O'Ward. Something like that, yeah.
Okay. Nick DeVries is there too.
Oh, yeah, he is. That's correct.
And I asked that question because I truly didn't know. And then thinking from a standpoint of if Lando doesn't move over and directly disobeys team orders, do they put him in his place by making him sit out a race?
I don't think Zach Brown will allow that, but that's a good point.
It's a possibility.
It's a possibility. By the way, Andrea Stella, they were interviewing him and Zach Brown separately. And funny enough, both gave different answers for who their favorite driver is on the team.
Interesting.
Brown obviously said Norris, but Stella said Oscar.
Interesting.
Very interesting. Stay tuned, everybody. Last one of the night.
Sorry, what was yours for?
Team orders? Oh, sorry. I am going over. Not necessarily they're going to be followed, but there's going to be a lot of team orders.
Okay.
Last one of the night. Over under 305 points for Oscar. 309.5. Sorry.
There you go.
Yeah. That Unibrew is strong beer. So I think he got 308 last year, if I'm not mistaken. So does he get more points? You and I are big Oscar fans. That's where I'm going with this. Do we think he improves?
Again, I think based on my previous predictions, I have to say under. Because I don't think the points tallies are going to be as high. All right, when we look at the team standings for last year, that's the wrong year.
McLaren got 666.
Yeah, but we have 2 teams with over 600 points. Then we have 589, a 468, and then 5th place is 94, right? So based on what I've been saying, I don't think we're going to get teams in the 600s. I think we might get teams just breaking 500, and then down the grid, all these numbers will get higher. So I think it's not. I think it's under. Not by much, but I think it's under.
He got 292 last year, so I'm mistaken. But still, that's 18 points more to go over. That's one more second place, one less DNF.
It's significant.
Yeah, in one sense. For one of the best cars, potentially the best car, one more second place instead of a DNF, I'm going to go over.
Okay.
Big fan of Oscar. And him improving while Lando stays stagnant is amazing for F1, I think, in my opinion. Puts a wrench in the entire media narrative about Lando. While at the same time giving McLaren their future champion. All right. I think that's it.
All right.
We've gone way over our time limit, so I think we have to stop it there.
Well, we did promise that we would try to be more philosophical this year.
What are you thinking?
I'm going to propose a thought experiment.
Mm-hmm.
Red Bull is a team that has seen a lot of change. Right? We have a consistent driver. We have an ever-changing second driver. We have a large portion of the team behind the scenes that are moving around. Are you familiar with the ship of Theseus?
No.
It's a thought experiment that if a ship has all the parts replaced over time, is it the same ship?
Wow.
So specifically, the ship of Theseus was a large ship in whatever it was, in which it kept being repaired. So board by board, eventually the entire thing was replaced. Is it the same ship? Can we put the same emphasis on Red Bull in its current state as it gets picked apart and changed from the inside out effectively? Is it the same ship that it was when they were, let's say, winning 4 championships in a row with Vettel or 4 championships in a row with Max Verstappen?
You just blew my mind there. That is a great point. Can we use the same metrics of the past to deduce the future on Red Bull when there's completely different ingredients?
That's one way to look at it. I would look at it from the standpoint of we put a lot of emphasis on the driver. We put a lot of emphasis on Adrian Newey. The driver is consistent, at least one of them is. The designer has now changed. The backbone of it is all changed. But the rest of the team is also being picked apart. Is this the same team that was the championship winning team?
Very good point. I don't know.
Brett?
And sorry, just to interject, can we deduce that based off the first couple races even? No. It's going to take some time to answer this question. But yeah, what were you going to say?
No, and that's exactly what I was saying. I'm proposing it here. Let's take it away and let's think about it and let's refer back to it throughout the season as we get time and go from there.
The ship of Theseus and outliers. Those are two things.
Yeah, so I think we talked briefly in our last episode about the outliers topic.
The outliers might answer that question. Because you could say that the Chicago Bulls, and I always use basketball as a corollary, because it is in a lot of ways an individual sport and a team sport, much like Formula One. The 91 to 93 Bulls, that three-peated, or 90 to 93, were different than the 96 to 98 Bulls. But there was one focal point that guided them through. Michael Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a different ship in a lot of ways. But they had an outlier.
Yeah, that's fair.
So that is a good question to posit this entire season.
I was originally going to shut you down on mixing the two, but now I don't necessarily agree with the comment you made for one reason or the other, but I think you have something there. Yeah, I got to think about that a bit.
What was supposed to be a quick over-under has once again been a Sean and Nick 2-hour special. So we need to end it there. But we should posit this question throughout the season.
Yes.
Good call.
And if any of you have any feedback on that, any comments you'd like to know, please do send it to us. Mm-hmm. And how can they reach us, Nick?
f1philosophypod@gmail.com. We want to hear your comments. You can also comment on our YouTube videos. Spotify, we appreciate every comment, every like. And like we say, no dick pics. Yet. And on that note, have a good night, Sean. And we'll talk to you in a couple weeks after Australia.
Sounds good. Good night, everyone.
Good night.